Hello and welcome. My name is René. I'm from KINEXON Sports, and I have the pleasure to welcome Staffan Olsson today for a talk and sharing some insights on how he's following the journey of KINEXON Sports and how he's integrating the data by himself. Staffan, please make a short introduction to the audience.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. What can I say? I have playing handball for 18 years in the Swedish national team, and after that I went over to the other side to be a coach. So now I have been a coach for almost also 20 years in different national teams and also in club teams. So I don't know anything else about and I have been in the handball sport for a very long time.
For a long time, yeah. And I think what's important to mention is that we know each other also almost since 10 years now, so that's also a long story. Maybe you can also give us some more insights on how everything started.
Yeah, it's actually it was starting with that at the time when I was coach for the Swedish national team. We had the president of the Swedish Handball Federation was Hans Westberg, who also was the CEO for Ericsson at that time. And I had some ideas from, I don't know from which, I cannot remember anymore from which sports, that I was reading a little bit about this tracking. And then I was asking him if he can give me some help with that through Ericsson. And I think after 10 times I was asking, he was tired of me and said, okay, you can have, I will give you 2 guys who will help you with that. So we actually did it in the whole way. So we managed it to work also with the GPS in the ball. And we were actually to present it for IHF at that time. It was really long time ago. And but we were too early actually because I will not say understand it, but it was too far away from them, I think. So that it was, then we let it down. And 2 years after I was reading about KINEXON, and then I took contact with Max.
Yeah.
And in that way we were starting, and I was still interested in these things. So we started in the beginning to have a conversation actually, and after that he was asking me if I could come to a meeting with all Bundesliga teams to talk a little about KINEXON and tracking overall. So that was actually the beginning, and then after that I came as an assistant coach to Paris, and that was also a discussion what can we do for develop the club and the players and so on. And then came this up with tracking, and the Paris did a really good job with investigate all the brands.
Yeah.
So we took in all information from, I think it was 4 or 5 different companies at that time, and they made the decision for KINEXON, and I think Paris was one of the first clubs in overall who took it in. So I have been follow KINEXON sometimes very tight and sometimes with a little bit distance, but they have always been there somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. And as you mentioned, Paris was one of our first handball clients, and we are still proud that they are still our client. So that's pretty cool story. As we are entering now the 8th year, I think, of contracting.
Yeah.
But speaking about too early, I mean, you mentioned it that, and I think we are in the same situation constantly, that we are trying to convince people using tech, working with tech, but they're hesitant. They don't know the value. How is it from your perspective? How did it develop over the past years? Especially, we now heard about the early stages where people were really hesitant about adapting technology. How do you feel it has changed until now?
And I think my feeling is I don't have the total control anymore what the clubs do. I think Bundesliga, all the team has working with it for 5 or 6 years now. So I think there has done the most of the development things, and I think also that is my feeling that clubs are working in it in different ways, but what I know for sure, it's that many clubs are watching the loading for this training, for this week, for this month, and etc. to have a control. So the main part is still, I think, the strength trainer who are keeping an eye on the guys and also try to transform the trainings, how hard and how, if they shall train hard or not and stuff like that. But my feeling is also that it's coming up new things, and I'm quite sure I don't have control of all Bundesliga club what they are doing, because I heard a lot of new things. I will try to inform me about that, but for me right now as a national coach, I think it would be, and I will try to start it with especially with my players who was playing in Bundesliga, to have the data from the clubs. And as we know now that the Dutch Federation, we also have the KINEXON system from since many years, but we have not used it on the men's side for so long time. So now I try to have that we can change information with the clubs, the national team, that we can, after a week when we have to been together, we can send the reports, what have we done, how this your players looks like, if he was tired or not, and stuff like that. So I think that is one of the things what can come, and I hope it will come. And for me, it's that actually even more interested for the clubs and for the national team to knowing and how the player are coming back to the club and in which shape. So I think it's that is one thing what will come in the future, I think.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think one can say that there's a transition going on over the past years from taking an isolated look, club by club, on their own data and more or less focusing on performance data and load management, to trying to set up a holistic network on how to exchange data and how to support data-informed decisions also from a national team perspective. Speaking about this network, and you mentioned it already, that we're in a lucky situation with the Handball Bundesliga or with the EHF using the technology. And just side note for the audience, so they're using the local positioning system, which means every player is wearing a small sensor between the shoulder pads, and we are also equipping the balls with our technology, so that means you can get player and ball insights. And from an ideal world perspective, how should this exchange work from a national team?
I was thinking about it, and everything. I had this discussion with the trainers for the academy right now, because they are using it every day, and they're also with the balls and stuff like that. We will look more on it now that we can see what the player are doing on the court, how quick they are, how high they can jump, and you can translate the strength training, what are they doing. And for me it's a little bit nerd to say that because you are doing a jump test with both legs, but in handball you are not so often jumping with two legs. Can you see a difference there? Is it something in the strength training who is missing? Because I can continue for hours, but there is one thing what we were discussing, and now with the ball also we can see how the development is with shooting, for example, with the pass quality, the speed of the passes, and so on. So it will for us, or for me, it will be the next step for the academy, because that's a really interesting part to compare strength training and handball training, and also keep an eye on the guys in my case, how is the development for this in these areas.
So maybe again also for the audience, that everyone can can keep following us as we are talking about separate topics. So
yeah, sorry.
No, all good. I think that's perfect because we just need to always come back and try to cluster it and summarize it a bit. I think it's super important to understand the perspective of load management. And as we mentioned, we are not only talking about getting insights in terms of overload or underload for practices, but we are also discussing insights into what can be also a future next step by having diagnostics and assessment in a labor situation and trying to translate it on the pitch, on the court. I think that's something we also briefly discussed yesterday during the practice session, right? Hey, can we integrate a short sprint followed by a jump just to have an assessment and understand, are the players really explosive enough? Are they reactive enough? Or do we need to work on their strength and endurance in parallel? So that's, I think, one key topic. And as you mentioned, we can discuss the whole time about this. But as we have the lucky situation that we have with you also head coach, a national team head coach with such a great experience, and as you also try to get into the connected ball, I think that's another important layer. And again, connected ball is something we are very proud of at KINEXON Sports. I think that's something everyone knows us for and which we are famous for. But it's also something which is not that established, especially if we talk about practice situations. And maybe another anecdote from yesterday's practice, and this is then giving us some more insights on how to work with the data. Yesterday, we had the lucky situation to really follow the practice and to see firsthand insights. And the cool thing was that you were using the connected boards and you were standing close to the players with a tablet, and you were doing some shooting exercises, and you were directly telling them, hey, this was 100 kilometers per hour, this was 90 kilometers per hour. So you were really trying to already give them real-time feedback. And what's the purpose of that? How do you see that?
No, I mean that was the first time we were testing that. So then we can measure how hard they're shooting, and it was the end of the training and so on. But you can see the boys were directly connecting and saw it as a really interesting or funny thing. And I also would like to translate or transform that to the strength training. They do a lot of shoulder trainings and training to have a better shot. Is the practice right? Can we see any development when they are shooting? And for me now it's the next step can also be how hard is your first shot in the 5th minute, and how hard is your shot in the 55 minute when it's standing draw. So you can have a lot of different analysis in these cases, but you can take something out and then just put it in other rooms, if you can say like that, and put everything together. So it's a lot of work for sure, but especially for me in the academy, then we really have the time to work with stuff like that, because we're having 4 years time to talking about development. It's not so focus on games or results and stuff like that. So in that part, it's one perfect session for us to work with stuff like that.
Yeah, I think speaking about the academy use case and development, there we are also talking about another layer, benchmarking. So you can use the data you get from the A national team, and you can create benchmarks to see always, are the players good enough to take the next step in their development and in their career.
It can also be a motivation for this young. Now I'm only talking about boys. We have a girl side, of course, but there I'm not working with that side, so therefore I'm only talking about the men's side. But that can also be a motivation for these young boys to see, okay, how is the players from the first team shooting? How quick are they? How high can they jump? And so that can also be a good motivation for them to see, okay, I need probably this kind of things to have a chance to play in the national team.
And I think that's the very important piece also to mention, although we are just mainly talking about men's, it can be easily translated to women and to the girls side as well. And I think that's the cool part about technology. If we talk about a metric like shots, if you have access to a connected ball, and if we talk about a metric like shot, you can use it for so many different purposes. You can use it to motivate the players, to give them feedback. You can use them to give insights to a strength and conditioning coach, to take a deeper look into what we just talked about, shot speed, and to see strength, or areas for improvement in terms of strength and weaknesses. But you can also use it more from a tactical perspective to have an understanding who are the players who are capable of repeating very intense and high-speed shots also throughout a whole match. So
you have a lot of interesting part, and also you can see this in all these areas actually. For a wing player, how is his first sprint in counter-attack comparing to his last, and maybe the last one is more important than the first one. So I mean, you can have a lot of data and pick it out and watch to see, and they also again can take it in your physical training to see if the difference are too big, then it's not about that you cannot sprint. It has to do with your body, or condition or stuff like that. So you can always take it together and see what is the main thing, what can we change, what can we do to develop this wing player, or so he has the same sprint in the last minute, or the speed of the sprint in the last minute. And then it's also things what you maybe not can, because some of these guys has a feeling when they shall run or not, and stuff like that. So you cannot analyze everything, but it can for sure help you.
No, I think that's the part, right? So I was briefly mentioning it at the beginning. I think we are talking about data informing decisions. It's not about data making or driving decisions. It's about giving you objective data to support the whole process. And sometimes also you as a coach, right? You have a gut feeling and you know this player, he will win the match. So he needs to stay on the court. Okay, that's fine. Although maybe the data says he's already in the red zone and he's no chance that he can run 2 more sprints without maybe getting an injury. But I think it's super important to mention that it's about having objective data, informing decisions to give a better overview to what's happening. And this also maybe is the other piece which we were now discussing. We were now picking up just 2 or 3 metrics during our discussion. And I think that's also key. Although there are so many metrics available, it's important to break it down. You don't need to work with 10, 20, 30 metrics. You can work with 5 metrics. You can take a look at jumps, distance covered, sprint, and 1 or 2 insights from a ball.
Body contacts.
Yeah. And then you already know how this translates and how this is involved, or the involvement of different departments is, right? So you as a head coach, you're taking a look from global perspective, like what's happening, how is it influencing the whole team and our system, and then you can break it down and give it to strength and conditioning coach. You can give it to an analyst, and everyone can work with the same metric but from a different perspective. And at the end, it comes together.
I totally agree with you, and I think that's also very important that all these tools, and KINEXON is one of them, will not doing everything. So it's you still have to work as a coach, but it is a really good tool for me to make me and the players and the team better. And that's for that it is a really good tool. So I totally agree with you. It's important to say that if you just have 3 or 4 different tools, you will win every game. So it's unfortunately not so easy and all good.
It's not so easy, and I think we are again and again also running into similar situations where we as a company, and we are now talking about 10 years later, and developments happening, and everyone is more into technology. But it's still the case that you're meeting up with coaches, with sporting directors, managing directors from teams, and they don't see the real value of having such a system. They see a money or a price tag for that, and then they make the decision, maybe it's better to invest into another player instead of a tool. But I think short term might be the case. As you mentioned, it will not guarantee you to win, but on the midterm and long run, it will always support you in improving the performance of the players. And at the end of the day, it's important that the players are healthy, especially if we talk about tournaments, if we talk about the end of a season, playoffs, whatsoever.
But I remember a really funny thing right now, 10 years back, also with especially when we were talking about when we was presenting it for the Bundesliga clubs, that there were many of the coaches at that time who was interesting in to see, because they had a feeling that some players are lazy in the trainings and stuff like that, and they are talking with them and they say, no, I'm running as much as all the other guys. So when we were explaining that, now you can see if there are some difference. Then the coaches did like that, because then it's easier to have this talk. Say, I think you are doing too less in the trainings, and they say no, I don't. And now they did have the data and say, look here.
That's the thing, right?
That was in the beginning, so it has developed a lot in that time. But it's one thing what make it easier for me as a coach, because I can see it in the training, and it can also be imagined. I'm not sure that I are having the real feeling about it, and the players are feeling, no, I'm running like hell. And then, okay, now we can watch it here. Compare it to the other guys, you are running 1 kilometer less, for example.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's kind of natural that it's impossible for a coach to follow and keep track of 20 players constantly. There's always a chance that players can do a bit less. But I think it's not the case that you should use it against the players. For sure, it will help to tell them, hey, you're doing less than all the others on the team. But I think it's also the other way around, right? That it's opening up more chances for the players, that they get an understanding, okay, there's a tool which helps me to improve, to keep healthy, and to reach the next stage and the next level. And again, for academy players, super important, because if you can compare against the top elite players, then you have like a real goal in front of you. You can work towards, you can go the extra mile. For top players, it's about how can I extend my career so that I'm also healthy next year. So I think there are many, many different topics. Super interesting.
This is only the beginning.
It's only the beginning. And as we talked about the connected ball as well, from your perspective, what would be a natural next step as well, by taking a look into
I'm a little bit interested to follow if you can see the tempo and speed of the ball. You compare it to different teams. Can you see any difference there, that you are in your eye when you're seeing a game? You can see, they are playing much quicker than that team, to compare stuff like that. If that's true, what is the difference? Are the other team running slowly, or is it the pass quality and the speed of the ball and stuff like that? But that's it's a little bit in the future, but it's for me. But I will try to follow that with big interest.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a bit in the future. If we talk about handball, it's already the future if we talk about other sports where you have more data available since more years, and where it's a bit easier to keep track on everything. But I think the interesting piece here is, again, you're coming from a higher level, saying, okay, I want to understand the speed of play, so to say, And then you want to break it down. How do I need to prepare for the next opponent? How am I competing in comparison to all the others? What impact does it have on my tactics? So do I need to invest then into in my defensive formation to slow down the game? Because then I know that the opponent is in trouble because they don't like playing slow. So I think those are all super interesting topics, and as you mentioned, we are at the beginning, but I think we are pushing forward in the right direction.
Yeah, so do I.
Perfect, Staffan.
Yeah.
So I think we touched base on the main important topics. Again,
we tried our best.
We tried our best. I hope it was super interesting for the audience as well. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah,
and
it's nice to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to all the next steps together with you.
So do I.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Staffan.
Thank you.